When I was younger, our family seemed like any other, normal, loving, and full of laughter. My parents were married for over 2 decades, and while they had their fair share of arguments, no one ever thought their marriage was in trouble. Then there was my aunt, my dad's sister. She was always close to us, almost like a second mom to me. We spent countless holidays together, laughed through family gatherings, and shared deep conversations late into the night. She taught me how to bake cookies, helped me study for exams, and was always there with a listening ear whenever I needed someone to talk to. But beneath all that normalcy lay a storm waiting to break. One day, out of nowhere, my dad dropped a bombshell. He had been having an affair with his own sister. Can you imagine how shocking that must have been? Not only did he betray my mom, but he also shattered the trust within our entire family unit. The news spread like wildfire, leaving everyone stunned and angry. My mom was devastated, not just because of the infidelity, but because of who it involved. How could someone do this to their sibling, to their own family? The initial shock gave way to anger, confusion, and sadness. My mom tried to hold things together, but it was clear she was crumbling inside. She stopped eating, sleeping, and socializing. Our once happy home became tense and silent. I remember walking on eggshells around her, afraid to say the wrong thing or bring up anything that might upset her further. Meanwhile, my dad disappeared from our lives almost entirely. He moved out, cut ties with most of the family, and acted as though nothing had happened. It felt like he didn't care about the wreckage he'd left behind. As if the betrayal itself wasn't bad enough, things got worse. After the affair became public, my aunt started showing signs of severe emotional distress. At first, it was small things. She stopped attending family events, wouldn't answer calls, and began isolating herself. But soon, her behavior became erratic. She'd lash out at people, cry uncontrollably, and eventually stop taking care of herself altogether. It became clear that she needed help, but by then, the damage was done. Things escalated quickly. One night, after a particularly bad episode, my uncle called emergency services, and my aunt was taken to a mental health facility. That's where she ended up, alone, scared, and struggling with her sanity, all because of choices made by those closest to her. Watching her deteriorate broke my heart, and I couldn't understand how anyone could let it come to this. I visited her a few times during her stay at the asylum. Those visits were some of the hardest moments of my life. Seeing her so fragile, so different from the strong woman I remembered, was unbearable. She barely recognized me at times, and when she did, she would apologize profusely, blaming herself for everything that had happened. It was heartbreaking to see her carry that weight alone. Meanwhile, the rest of the family fractured. Some sided with my mom, others tried to stay neutral, and some distanced themselves completely. It felt like we were living in a nightmare, and there was no waking up from it. Holidays turned into awkward silences, family dinners became non-existent, and the bond we once shared seemed irreparably broken. Fast forward several years, and I thought I had moved on, or at least found a way to cope. I hadn't spoken to my dad much since the incident, and honestly, I didn't want to. But then, out of the blue, he reached out. You might think he wanted to apologize or make amends, but you'd be wrong. Instead, he demanded something completely unexpected. He wanted me to take care of my aunt. He explained that she had been released from the asylum, but was still struggling to live independently. He claimed he couldn't handle it anymore and expected me to step in. Can you believe that? Here I was dealing with my own life, my own struggles, and now I was supposed to clean up his mess. At first, I was furious. Why should I bear the burden of his mistakes? I vented to friends, family, and even a therapist about how unfair it all felt. They listened patiently, offering advice and support, but none of it changed the fact that I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, I owed nothing to a man who abandoned his family. On the other hand, my aunt was family too, and she deserved compassion regardless of what happened. Ultimately, I decided to meet with my aunt. I needed to see her, talk to her, and figure out if I could truly take on this responsibility. When I saw her, it hit me hard. She looked so fragile, so lost. And yet, despite everything, she smiled when she saw me. In that moment, I realized that maybe forgiveness wasn't about excusing what happened. It was about choosing kindness anyway. So I agreed to help her. Not because I owed my dad anything, but because she mattered. It hasn't been easy. There are days when I feel overwhelmed, frustrated, and exhausted. Managing her medication, ensuring she eats properly, and helping her navigate everyday tasks has been a challenge. But seeing her slowly regain pieces of herself makes it worth it. Today, my relationship with my dad remains complicated. I don't know if we'll ever fully reconcile, and honestly, I'm okay with that. What matters most is that my aunt is getting better, and I've learned to set boundaries while still showing love. This experience taught me a lot about family, forgiveness, and personal responsibility. Sometimes, the hardest thing to do is the right thing. And while I can't change the past, I can choose how I move forward. Let me tell you more about what helping my aunt has been like. It's not just about practical things like making sure she takes her meds or eats regularly. It's also about rebuilding her confidence and self-worth. There are moments when she seems like her old self again, laughing and sharing stories, and those are the moments that remind me why I chose to help her. But there are also days when she retreats into herself, when the weight of everything becomes too much, and those are the hardest days for both of us. It's not just about her either. Helping her has forced me to confront my own feelings about the whole situation. I've had to grapple with questions of forgiveness, not just for my dad, but for my aunt as well. Did she deserve to be treated the way she was? Could I forgive her for being part of the affair, even if she was a victim in many ways? These aren't easy questions, and I don't think I'll ever have definitive answers. But asking them has helped me grow as a person. There's another layer to this story that I haven't mentioned yet. The impact it's had on me personally. Dealing with my aunt's mental health issues, managing my own emotions, and navigating the complexities of family dynamics has taken a toll. There were times when I doubted whether I could keep going, whether I was doing enough, or whether I was doing too much. I sought therapy to work through these feelings, and it was incredibly helpful. Talking to someone outside the situation allowed me to gain perspective and process everything in a healthier way. Through this journey, I've learned that family isn't just about blood, it's about choice. While my dad may have walked away, I chose to stay and help my aunt. And while my mom may never fully forgive him, she's still here, supporting me in her own quiet way. Family is messy, unpredictable, and often painful, but it's also beautiful in its imperfections. Looking back, I realize that this experience has shaped who I am today. It's made me more empathetic, more resilient, and more aware of the importance of setting boundaries. It's also shown me that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over bitterness, even when it's hard. But this story isn't just about me or my family. It's about the broader societal issues surrounding mental health, familial loyalty, and toxic relationships. Too often, we sweep difficult topics under the rug, pretending they don't exist or hoping they'll go away on their own. My aunt's struggle highlights the stigma attached to mental illness and the lack of resources available to those who need the most. It also raises questions about accountability. How far does our responsibility extend when someone we love makes destructive choices? In many ways, this ordeal has forced me to reevaluate my values and priorities. Before all of this happened, I thought family meant unconditional support, no matter what. Now I understand that healthy boundaries are essential for maintaining relationships. Love doesn't mean sacrificing your own well-being. It means finding a balance between giving and receiving. For me, helping my aunt wasn't just about fulfilling a duty. It was about honoring the person she used to be and giving her a chance to reclaim her life. It's been a long road, filled with ups and downs, but every small victory feels monumental. Watching her smile again, hearing her laugh, and seeing her rediscover parts of herself gives me hope. Hope that healing is possible, even in the darkest of times. Reflecting on this experience, I've come to realize that families are complex systems, and each member plays a role in shaping the whole. Whether it's through love, betrayal, or redemption, every interaction leaves a mark. For better or worse, we're all connected, and sometimes it's up to us to decide how deeply we want to engage with that connection. And so, I continue to walk this path, learning and growing with every step. Because at the end of the day, life is about choices. And sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones that lead to the greatest growth.